Hello, everyone. Jack Farmer here with the Wrestling Chatter, and we have a doozy for you this time around. We chat with Erik Watts, and we talk about all things from him being a kid and fun stories with wrestlers growing up, all the way to the things he's doing today and the wrestlers that were most influential to him, both in the ring and outside of it. It's a good one. Check it out as we chat with Erik Watts. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Wrestling Chatter podcast. My name is Jack Farber, and I'm being joined by none other than Erik Watts. Erik, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, no problem. I just want to let you know, George, your cohort, introduced you as the real Jack Farmer, good-looking guy. So you guys get ratings. So he does the behind the scene, you do the front. So I just want to call you out on this, the Wrestling Chatter, that let's find out how much you know, because you're known as the good-looking guy.
Oh, I'm totally a propped up person here. I got nothing. I just read what's on the teleprompter.
No one's accused me of that. I'm speaking out of jealousy and hate towards you right now.
Hey, I get it all the time, Erik. It's fine.
Good for you. Good for you.
I always like to start off with a simple question just to get things going. It's still early where I'm at. What's your favorite breakfast food?
You know what? Today I made some, DDP. I'm doing DDPY. I don't know if you guys know about his whole yoga and his whole thing. So part of my world is I do credit card processing and business consulting. So I've had his account for some time. And let me tell you, by the credit cards that run through there, a lot of people are using the app, right? So I couldn't be a hypocrite. I use the app. And so so he's always on to me, right? So he's like, bro, you can't eat that bread, bro. You got to have this stuff. Yeah. So the other day I bought Ezekiel bread, right? And people in California just go, oh yeah, the stuff in the freezer that doesn't have all the additives. So I told him, he's like, bro, that's kind of like I forgot what he said. That's kind of like an imitator. You need to use this. I'm like, bro, I quit using the. Like, I thought I was using the good stuff and it's not good enough. So this morning I cut up a grapefruit and got it ready. And I did Ezekiel bread and avocados and over easy eggs this morning is what I had with steel cut oatmeal, in water with some peanut butter, which is actually awesome. So I hate him and all his nutrition, all his healthiness, but don't tell anyone it works.
Right.
I'm mad at him for being right.
Well, I was going to say, you mentioned California. What a California breakfast. You got your avocado toast, It's,
yeah. If I had it at a drive-thru in my freaking Tesla, I would have been doing great.
Right, exactly. Well, that's a great way to start the day. And I want to talk to you about, obviously, we're here to talk about wrestling. So I want to talk about the wrestling side of your life. And I really want to get into the very, very beginning here. Unlike a lot of people who have the chance to be a fan of wrestling before they get involved with wrestling, you were kind of born into it. And I'm watching Young Rock on TV and all these fun backstage stories of life growing up in pro wrestling. I was just curious if you had any fun stories as a kid being a part of the pro wrestling world.
Yeah, and because we only have X number of minutes, I got to be careful, because when you ask me an open-ended question like that, you've got to understand nothing was fun and everything was fun, because it was a way of life. So it was always very serious, but I did have some blessed moments. Probably one of the greatest moments I had was, my mother is from Estonia. And so when Russia came and said, hey, we love you guys, let us put some tanks and planes over here to protect you. And they're like, oh yes, we're a small nation. And they moved them in and turned around and said, we're taking you over.
Right.
And not to offend any Russians, but they're so special that they, raped and pillaged everyone and wanted to breed them out. So that was phenomenal. Thank God they didn't get to my mom when she was 7. But my point is, so she comes over to America, and, A, she teaches me about open-mindedness, B, faith, but C, humility, complete humility. She's like, you never have to talk about what you have and don't have. You should be more focused on what people need and want. And my mom, one of the most beautiful people in the world, which Groundhog's Day, just a day or two ago, was actually my mother's 80th birthday.
Oh, and, happy birthday.
Gosh, she's so unbelievable. She really is. So why I'm telling you this is, for a long time as a kid, you could grow up and it's like, hey, show and tell, right? So kindergarten, hey, show and tell. First grade, second grade, show and tell. So I'd asked my mom for a long time, and she's like, Erik, we need to think about this. Why would you go and show something and tell something when you could appreciate and listen to what everyone has to show and tell? So I listened to that, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. I don't know when it was, and I said it politely. I'm like, hey, listen, Mom, I've seen everything they got to show and tell. Yeah, can I not show something someday? I said, hey, listen, I said, can I even ask my dad to come? And she goes, well, your dad's on the road all the time. He's got to. So it goes back into a lesson. Well, if he's not on the road, then we don't make the money and we don't produce. And and I'm like, yes, Mama. And so one day, finally, she's like, hey, you know what? Let's do something. I said, yeah. I said, I'd like to bring my dad. A lot of people know him. A lot of people heard of him. I'd like to bring my dad. I'm not asking to bring a Rolex or Ferrari, whatever the hell it is, right?
Right.
And she's like, okay. And she goes, I know what time your class is. It's right before lunch. When I get there, I'll knock on the door, poke my head in, and that'll be your time. I'm like, okay, not knowing how that works, right? Like, hey, teacher. Right. So I told the teacher before, I said, hey, my mom's going to come up and I get to do show and tell today. She's like, oh, great, that's awesome. So all of a sudden, my mom knocks on the door, and she looks in. And of course, in the smaller schools, like there's a door and there's a very small window to the side. And so I'm like, okay. And then she's like, so Erik, what'd you bring today? I said, I don't know. The door opens and this fro bends down, comes up, and it's Andre the Giant.
Oh, wow.
So my mom my mom brought Andre the Giant from my show and tell, and people lost their everything. And like, he wasn't married, but he had a ring that would be on your married hand on the other side. And so he even brought stuff like his ring. When you pull off his ring, you could fit a silver dollar through the ring. My mom and dad had bought him as a bonus because he loved my dad's boots, being Cowboy Bill Watts. So my dad got a hold of Lucchese boots. Lucchese are huge, and he wanted these ostrich skin boots. So my dad paid thousands and thousands of dollars to have special made ones because he said he was a 23 quadruple E. So he was actually in town for that bonus program. Like, hey, we want to give you this for all the hard work you've done for this. And they were too small. They were too small. So he brought the boots with him. So you can imagine little kids. We're like sticking both feet in one boot and walking around. So after that, he's like, that deep accent. I'm hungry. And I'm like, what are we gonna feed you? A school bus? But I'm like, yay! And so when you're in like the first, second, third grade, it's always in like an auditorium or an atrium. And they got the old plastic rollout tables with the plastic seats that are like as big as a quarter. And so what he did was he couldn't sit on them because he couldn't fit. So they pulled this massive wooden table. He sat on it. He sat at the end. They brought him like a tray, right? And you couldn't see the fork or the spoon, and he's eating it. Now, so we're like, so if I could say that Jesus did, from what I heard, walk on water, but I was not far behind him that day. Like, I was foot skiing and shit, like people like, oh, you're the man. And you know what? I couldn't even help myself. I'm like, no, really, I am. And I didn't do anything, but I'm the man. The funny thing, in the moral of the story, is kind of crazy. Well, my dad, when he brought him in, the Tulsa World newspaper wanted to do a special on pro wrestlers. And my dad had kind of worked them and said, sure. Why don't I get one of my guys? We'll take you out on a normal night of just going out and eating. And they're like, and he goes, and you pay for the meals and the alcohol, and you got the interview. They took him out that night to follow, and then they found out it was Andre the Giant. 7 T-bone steaks, 3 loaded baked potatoes, and from dinner to the end of the night, he drank 103 Coors Lights and a 5th of Jack Daniels.
Jeez.
They paid for it. They wrote it up and they put it at the top of the Tulsa World, which for my father, he's smiling going, you guys fell for this shit. A, I didn't have to pay for it. B, you had a great time. And now you just painted a picture of just what kind of incredible people, are out there. So that is a story of one of the cool things that happened.
So cool to hear. Now, going through school, you were a football player, and you played through college. But obviously, once you were done, you got into pro wrestling. I was curious, when did you decide to make the switch to pro wrestling? Was that always the plan? Was it something that changed your mind? When and why did that switch change?
Okay, so again, going back from my mother's upbringing, right? So my mom, she spoke 9 languages. Her family had to stay in concentration camps / deportation camps because the boat that they bartered with jewelry to get out of Estonia started to sink around Germany. So she got out of Germany, so they put her in what they call deportation camps, okay? And they waited on sponsors. As a family, they said, we don't want to go one by one to this America and be in different cities and states and not, who knows how long, and all this other stuff. So they waited. It took 7 years. And then they were actually sponsored over by a church out of Oklahoma City, brought them over. So now, she's from 7, now she's 14 years old. Now she's in the States. No one has a driver's license. Her mom does not. Her mom speaks, 9, 10 languages as well, but American was kind of English is a language, but if you're not speaking it every day, blah blah blah, right? So you could imagine they were kind of looked at like strange, a little bit strange. But this whole family is this European, high raised cheekbones, perfect skin, drop dead, beautiful. So what you do as any immigrant does is, you're going to school and doing your best, but your mom is trying to find houses for you to clean and dogs to walk and things like that. So that's what they were doing. So shortly after high school, which my dad went to that high school. It's actually, I don't know if it still is. It was the largest high school in the nation, which is kind of odd, right? Oklahoma City. You'd think it'd be New York or whatever. It's called Putnam City, and which there's several people like Jack and Jerry Briscoe and people that went to that school, but needless to say, so she starts getting a modeling contract, Miss American Bandstand, blah blah blah. So in that, the way my mom and dad met up, because my dad did not graduate college, he left before he got his degree because he got drafted by the Houston Oilers in football. So then he knocked out that coach and got traded to the Minnesota Vikings. And at the Minnesota Vikings, Vern Gagne found out about him, and the storyline fit perfect, and the rest is history. Why I'm telling you this is, so my dad was the guy that, became big in the NWA, and that's before the great rappers in California made the NWA difference. But yes. But the NWA, that was the world championship you wanted. That's what Flair and Harley Race had and things like that. Well, it was a federation and a franchise. And so my dad ended up working his way up into buying into one and sweat equity with Leroy McGurk of Oklahoma. And then he had the idea, guys, I'm going to break away. And it's going to cause such disruption, but it will bring even more acclaim to pro wrestling. So my mom's like, so my dad is one of the old school guys that believed in, you bring in this talent and they're with you for like 2-3 months a year. You get them as far as you can go, and then you send them off to another federation. So like when I was growing up, there's 23 federations. So you could send someone. So you could take a young, let's say Sting, and Sting may come in as an open card, and hell, his name may not even Sting. And he might be rough around the edges, and so you put him in matches where everyone beats him up for a while, and then you can only have someone get beat up for so long, and you switch him, and you may see him 2 years later as a mid card guy. A matter of fact, when I was at WWE, Shawn Michaels came up to me, and I knew Shawn. And he goes, Erik, you guys have that whole library of Mid-South Sports and Universal Wrestling Federation. I'm like, yeah. He said, hey, would you do me a favor? Could you get me like 6, 7, 8 matches? Like 30 minutes of matches. I want to show my kids that I was not famous my whole life, and that I had to work. I had to work for it. So could you send me some stuff? So I call up my brother because I'm wrestling at WWE. I said, hey, Micah, man. I said, can you throw together a collage of 6 or 7 matches, like 30 minutes of stuff, and can you send it to Shawn? He goes, sure. He goes, but Erik, 6 or 7 matches would take about 15 minutes because his matches weren't that long. Well, because they were like TV matches. Yeah. And so Micah puts them together and sends them to him. Shawn gets a hold of me and goes, Erik, I don't know exactly how to talk to you about this. I go, what? He goes, I love you. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate all that your father's done. He goes, but I can be honest with you, so I open your DVD, and he goes, I don't think I share it to my kids. He goes, why? I go, why? He goes, well, in my mind, my memory was like, yeah, I lost some matches, but he goes, I got my brain stomped out, and I was getting beat. No, really, like he's like, I was getting beat in minutes. He goes, I don't want to see my kids watch me get my ass whipped like this the whole time. And I stopped. I said, Shawn, I got to be honest with you. Watch the DVD, because even my dad said, this guy is going to be something one day. And I said, yeah, he is, Dad. He goes, because I've never seen a guy take an ass whipping like this.
Right.
but and it's joking, but literally he was such a professional. He took pride in every bump, and how he fed his face to you and kept the face to the audience, and how he could pull sympathy from the audience. People don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, you had to learn to lose before you learned to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why I'm telling you this is, so now you got to understand, my dad's friends are Vern Gagne, Eddie Graham, Von Erich, blah, blah. Now, if you follow some of the history of some of these families, you saw complete destruction in some of these families because of the pro wrestling lifestyle. Like what is there? One Von Erich kid left. They all either died or committed suicide, and they're in Texas, we're Oklahoma, and so there's a lot going on. And my mom's like, Bill, here's the deal. I don't want any of my kids to step into the ring professionally until they have their college degree, because God forbid they get hurt or something like that. I want them to always have an outlet. So now listen, my dad lesson tour, we held that promise, but when I say that we did everything else from if they needed a restroom cleaned up, they sent us. But I'm saying so we put up the rings, we teared the rings down, we sold merchandise in the summer, we did the lights and the music on TV events. We snuck around and found out what security people were letting people in and called Ticketmaster and had them fired.
Right.
Like so there's a lot. So I was there, and I had a agent, and it was kind of between Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Cincinnati, which I was really excited because this guy named DeBerg was at Tampa, and I'm like, oh my gosh, because there was great quarterbacks before me. I didn't get as many years to play. So based on how many games I played, they saw that there was a athlete, but they could also take advantage of that. So I'm not saying I was a first, second, third rounder. No, I knew I was like fifth, sixth, almost free agent. But I was like, this is perfect. I'll go. I'll play behind them, and hopefully I'll get a shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in that time, I called my father and said, hey, Dad, I'm in Louisville. Is there anything around this area in which I could go and just get in the ring? And he goes, I got a good friend of mine, the Masked Assassin, Jody Hamilton, and he's south of Georgia, and I can make a call for you and go down there.
Mm-hmm.
So I went down there, 21 days, 22 days in school, every day. I showed up as early as they'd let me. I stayed as late, and then I worked out with Sarge, and there's stories about Sarge, how brutal he was and stuff like that. Worked out with him. So my time was up, and I was driving back to Louisville because I had 3 more classes to finish my master's. And I was on the way back up, and Dusty got a hold of me and said, hey, brother, how would you like to have a match in Franklin, Tennessee? I go, sir, I've only been in the ring for 21 days. He goes, well, do you know how to tie up? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, do you know a headlock? I'm like, yeah. He goes, do you know a wrist lock? He goes, yeah. He goes, okay, you know enough, And so he said, hey, just stop and go wrestle. So to keep the story short, so I wrestled that town. Grizzly Smith comes up to me and says, hey, Dusty wants you to call. Dusty said, hey, you don't have to be in school till Monday, so why don't you hit, I think Chattanooga's next, which was all on the way to Louisville. And then I forgot whether it was Knoxville, Nashville was the next night. And then I was then I knew they had Saturday night tapings in Atlanta for Saturday Night Live Pro Wrestling WCW, which was not live, it was taped. And I believe it was a Monday. And so I wrestled Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I believe. And he calls me, goes, hey, Erik, tell me what happened. Well, the first night I said, I can't remember anything. My adrenaline was so high, I can't remember. And so then I said, the second night I said, Dusty, everything just slowed down. I said, I got to explain something to you. I said, Dusty, I have actually played for the University of Louisville against Syracuse in the Tokyo Dome for the Coca-Cola Classic.
Mm-hmm.
I have been in the Fiesta Bowl against Alabama, and we rocked them 34-7. My first college start was in front of 100 and whatever thousand people on ESPN in the Horseshoe at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
I have had some places where I got to be honest with you, some people have never been.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to be honest with you, even in Franklin, Tennessee, and Cleveland, and Chattanooga, it was the greatest thing and the highest high I've ever felt. And he goes, "You are fudged." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Yeah, it happened to me." He goes, "Let me explain something to you, son. I know you're clean living and all that, but I don't care what rock star or football player or whatever you want to read. There is no drug. There is no stage. There is not going to the moon that will ever change the feel you have in front of that audience ever." And I said, "Well, sir, you're right. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to finish my master's. I've already interviewed with Georgia Pacific, a company, a paper product company in Atlanta." I said, "So I hope I'll just take a job there and I'll come and train and see what I can do." And he goes, "No, you're not going back to college." I go, "No, I got classes tomorrow." I said, "My fiance is still there. She's finishing up classes too." He goes, No. You're in Atlanta, Georgia, and your fourth match ever is going to be on Saturday night, WCW, and we've got a contract." And I go, "Huh?" And so, are you asking me, did I know the path? Hell no. Will I take it back? Hell no. Do I wonder sometimes, should I give it a shot at NFL? No, because my mom also said you live with no regrets and you never look back. So I don't know, would I've been something, not been something in football, blah, 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 blah. Man, wrestling was in my bones as a kid. It paid for all my stuff and all my things as I was a kid, and it paid for all my kids' stuff as well, right?
Right.
And athleticism is my body. My daughter right now, me and Diamond Dallas Page and his wife and my girlfriend have to take off Friday. We're going to fly up to Annapolis, Maryland to have dinner with her. Saturday morning, I think it's on CBS Sports, 10:30 in the morning. She is a 6'1" guard, leading scorer on the team, third in the league of her league, fourth in the league in her league. And we're going to go watch her play. And then we're going to go out that night with her and hang out. And then Saturday, I think me and Dallas are flying back because we've got to do some kind of Super Bowl party or something like that. But so there's athleticism, there's things in our lives, and from what I hear, WWE is kind of very interested in her. But listen, she's at the academy. She is studying cyber information, and a lot of people don't know, when these kids go to the academy after their second year, they have to sign an agreement. It's called a 2-for-7. So you have to do the other 2 years of college. You have to give them 5 years after, and you're not an employee, so you can't do NIL deals.
Yeah.
So we're allowing the WWE to talk to the Naval Academy, meaning we'll see what happens. But still, between you and me, I told my girl, I said, "Listen, you're in cyber information. Why don't you just hang out, be real successful, and buy the WWE when you retire?"
Right.
So,
Right.
but listen, I don't tell my kids. I got a 6'4" kid, beautiful, good looking, on your level. My daughter cannot not have people break their necks. She was on a month every month. I mean, excuse me, every summer you've got to go to a base in the summer as your time off to work at a military facility. So San Diego was her first year. She loved it, in a submarine, taking the jets out. It was awesome. The other one was in Virginia. So they docked because the boat wasn't processing water and they'd been out to sea for a while. And so she called someone from the Naval Academy. They said, "Hey, come into town, get a shower, and you can wash your clothes." So she went to wash her clothes and do stuff in New York. And she goes, "I got to pick up some basic stuff. I mean, it's been hell on the sea, with no water for like 2 or 3 weeks." And she goes, "Okay." So she went by Target. Coming to give you an idea, she's in downtown New York, comes out of Target, and a lady stops her and goes, "Are you really a military person?" And she goes, "Yes." She goes, "Well, we get all kinds in New York. I just want to know." She goes, "Can I take your picture?" And she goes, "For what?" And she goes, "I'm the senior editor for the New York Times, and I'm gonna put you on the cover of the digital." And I don't know whether it was. She definitely sent me the covers of it. just her coming out with a Target bag, and then they asked her to do like 4 or 5 other photos. So again, I'm not bragging. I'm saying I've got good-looking children, which only means that I married a good-looking woman at one time because I'm not good-looking. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not bragging about my kids. I'm actually saying I must be pretty cool because I got a good-looking chick one time in my life.
Right.
but I mean, and it's in their body. So even though it's in their DNA, my daughter's like, but Dad, like if I go to the WNBA, WWE might be able to work the same thing. I said, you're not even going to WNBA if I have anything to do with it, but it's your choice.
Yeah.
It's your choice because life is bigger than that. And you want to have children, you want to have kids, and you're studying cyber information at the Naval Academy. Let's talk about the offers that are going to happen here in the next 5 years.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my deal.
So as you look towards the future and things, obviously there's WWE, there's AEW now, there's lots of different opportunities out there. If wrestling were there, what's your kind of view on wrestling today? Do you follow wrestling today very closely? Do you have any perspective on where it's going or what's going on today, or do you sort of stay out of it now that you've lived it for so long?
No, what we do is just the opposite. For me, when I had to retire due to several really bad injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the worst one was rupture my esophagus.
Mm.
And so to this day, I just turned 55. I still cough blood almost every day. And, the doctors way back in the day said, hey, live your life however you want. You're going to only live maybe till 32. And I said, okay. And for some reason I changed my lifestyle and I said, well, the doctors told me to act like, party like a rock star because I'm not going to live. Now at 55, my liver probably hates me because I've made it this far. But there you are. So at a certain time, I love wrestling so much, but my creative mind from my dad's booking and everyone's booking and the great Jerry Jarrett's and all these, the Jim Rosses and the Paulie Dangerously's and the Jerry Lawler's and all the people I've been around, the Vince Russo,
Mm-hmm.
and completely different backgrounds those guys are. But me watching it and seeing it on a tapestry and seeing how they painted pictures, I've always kind of loved it. And
Mm-hmm.
I have threatened lately in the last 6 months that I may want to reach out to some of those guys to see if I could do something creatively because I have done creative stuff at the others. But I've pretty much been just doing my own business consulting, and I own a merchant processing company as well. But I do love it that much, but I stay away from it because it is almost like a drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
You watch it, you get involved in the characters, you think, oh my gosh, what an incredible spot or what an incredible storyline. But at the same time, you go, at other ones, you're like, but I think that I could have added to this or heightened this or who came up with this. So you very easily get very involved with it. And again, because it's in my DNA based on who I was raised with. And then it's very tough. Am I mad about it? No. Diamond Dallas Page had a surprise wedding. I've never heard this in my life. He's like, bro, I'm going to ask this girl to marry me. And so I'm going to send you this surprise invitation. Just don't tell anyone. I'm like, huh? What? What? Like my head hurt. I'm like,
yeah.
How does that work? And I found out how it worked, and he's just the man. And
Mm-hmm.
so we took care of that, right? But we're just there, and so all of a sudden, Paige is like, bro, and it's like Thursday night. I got to get back into Atlanta. My girl's got to work the next day. She's corporate finance chick. I've got my own thing, so we weren't going to stay over the Thursday night and all this other stuff. And so it was only Chattanooga, it was hour up, hour back, whatever. And so there's some guys there. Well, I can tell that either someone let out the zoo or, there's peacocks or, oh, maybe these guys are pro wrestlers. No, I knew like, me and RVD were hanging out laughing. Me and Mark Merrow were hanging out laughing. Some of the guys that have been around, but there's some other guys I'm like, they look like they could be pro wrestlers, I guess, and they're like, oh yeah, the guy, the Uzo dudes. I'm like, oh, okay, Uzo, that sounds like a pus thing. Like, they have infections. Or like, no, but they're really great. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so there's a few people. So right before I said, Paige, I love you, baby. I gotta go. He goes, hold on, bro, get the cameras. So there's like 8 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And this is funny as hell. And he goes, let's get a picture. Well, it's kind of cold outside. Who cares? but we're waiting out there, and the camera person's waiting to get and they snap these pictures. Well, right before I said, "Hey, diamond cutter," and so everyone, I put my hand up. My girlfriend puts her hand up. Now listen, I'm 6'6". Okay,
Right.
My girlfriend's like 5'9", 5'10". I'm not watching because I'm just being, a pro wrestler. Like, hey, hey, let's add to the picture. I don't see that the one picture of the diamond cutter. My hand is in front of her face. Okay, so no, it gets better. So like a day later, it's all over TMZ. Hey, and so my girlfriend goes. So I sent her. I said, "Hey, listen, you're on TMZ." She's like, "What?" Because like anyone would. She didn't know anything about wrestling. She's not. Yes, she knows about wrestling, but she wasn't like, "Hey, you're Erik Watts." Blah blah blah. I met her because I was donating my time to a sixth grade football team in which her son Devin which is a badass athlete, was on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, hey, this kid's cool. And then I start talking to his mom, and I'm like, you're a cool kid, but your mom's pretty cool too, right? And so we start dating. But the funny shit about it is, so I sent her the thing, and so her claim to fame is that she was in a TMZ article, but my hand was in front of her face. So bro, I do not do anything but appreciate and love life and taking every minute. As a matter of fact, the only reason we're cutting this interview short and it's early is because she's in the finance world. So that December is closing books for companies, and then it's giving projections for the next year. So she's burnt out, and we both did Dryuary, which I don't remember all the 10 commandments, but I want to let you know that if you believe in anything faithful, you should then question your faith. Would a God really ask us to not drink for a month? and so we just finished that. She's just finishing the books. And so we thought that we would go hang out, an hour away at a really, like a bougie place, and just relax for two days. So she's told me, she goes, "Hey, I appreciate your podcast world and your pro wrestling, but if we're not gone by like 3:00 our time, you'll never have to do a podcast again." So I'm just letting you know, her name's Lisa Morgan, and she threatened me. So
if you turn up missing, we know who to
that's
look
what I'm
for.
trying to say. Like, no, and she watches all the Criminal Minds shit. So I'm telling you right now, hey, this is the crumb of info. I did not die or kill myself at sleep. So, dude, I know you're good looking, and the smart guy, George, is in the back. Guys, SOS. You don't hear from me? Her name is Lisa Morgan. She killed me. Okay.
Together, we'll put together the clues. We'll figure it out for you.
Put the clues together. I'll put the clues together.
I know you got to go, and I don't want to take up your time. But one last quick question for you. It's going to be a doozy, but I always like to end on a positive one.
Okay.
Besides your dad, who's been the best positive influence for you in pro wrestling? Who's either whether they taught you, because you mentioned a lot of names. You mentioned like Dusty Rhodes, Paul Heyman. You mentioned Vince Russo, all these people, DDP. Who's been your positive influence?
The hair is sitting up on my arms. I don't get emotional, but I'll tell you this much: I could not, or I should not, or would not be able to thank all the beautiful people that helped me in my career. And some of them did not want to help me. Some of them hated me because of, not me, because of, oh, he's Bill Watts' son or whatever. And then like Rick Rude, I mean, we actually had a physical altercation, Rick and I, eventually, which I didn't want, but it happened. And after that, he became one of the more influential people with me, because he's like, I don't know why I hated you. I just was pissed off at the world. And I'm like, okay. And God, it was awesome. Arn Anderson to come up. He's the one that came up with the angle to blow his knee out, which his knee was blown, but to get in a fight, and it was a huge storyline on the pay-per-view. Vince Russo, which I'd only met like one time, because he interviewed me for WWE, and then I didn't even know that my dad's the one that got him the booking at WWE. Called me to come to TNA. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Raven and so many people. Harley Race would say, "Hey, you show up at a town at noon when the ring's up, and I'll come." Vader hated me. Vader hated me because they kind of put him on a string, and he had to go everywhere Harley went. So I remember he he would come in grumpy and really mad with his mask on because he had to wear it everywhere, and he would lay like on the front seats and shit, and and this is all he say at every town: "You suck. It's not my fault you suck. It's not your fault you suck because who's wrestling only after 20 days of training, but because you suck, I've got to get my fat ass up when I'm on the road with Harley Race because he wants to help you get better and train. So your sucking is affecting me in my sleep. So get rid of sucking. You know, like you know, it was Bret Hart, Bret Owen Hart. As soon as I went to WWE, I've never met the guys, and they pull me aside and say, "Hey, listen, we're brothers and kin through pro wrestling. If you ever have any issues, you know, you let us know." And Macho Man Randy Savage telling me about how the reason why he's in wrestling and the person that believed in smaller guys, which even though everyone talked about my dad having these huge badass locker rooms, which he did, he said, without your father, Macho Man's like, I wouldn't have been a pro wrestler. So how long can Jake's a Snake Roberts. So all these people that were so kind and influential in my life that took time were amazing. So I could not ever name one. But, you know, the latter ones that you're talking to about is like the Lex Lugers and the DDPs. They're very influential, not based on what we went through in wrestling, but how we have been mentors and positive influences to each other in the ring of life. And to show you how crazy it is, how do you get a call? Bro, you're going to the Army-Navy game? I'm like, the football game? He's like, no, bro, your daughter's game. I'm like, well, we've talked about it. I like going up to games and stuff. We're talking about that game. He was like, bro, you need to get your tickets and your flight bullshit. And I'm like, why are you so worried? He goes, bro, she invited me. I've already made my shit 3 weeks ago. I'm like, what? So he literally had to, I'm like, so how does this work out? Right. So I call my daughter. I go, what is the deal? You offered Dallas. Well, Dallas is so kind because my kids, you know, due to DDPY and he's got a vested interest in my children, and he will communicate to my daughter, hey, you had an incredible game and and still with my son. Shoot, 2 weeks ago, think about this picture. 2 weeks ago, I get a call from Dee, and Dee's like, hey, bro, me and the girl want to meet you and your girl at a high school basketball game. My mind is racing. I'm like, none of my kids are in high school anymore, and so I don't even know exactly what you're talking about. I did not know you like high school basketball. He's like, bro, didn't your kids go to Etowah? I'm like, yeah, it's like 3 miles from my house. Bro, Scott Steiner's kid just got signed to Virginia Tech. I'm like, you talked to Scott Steiner? Bro, are you kidding me? We had things in the past, bro, thicker than thieves. So here I am with my girlfriend, his wife, with Scott Steiner, his wife, watching a kid that, dear God, he's so good. Like mind-jarring good. And I have gone to multiple games since then. And Dallas has been with a few with me just to watch this kid. That's how good he is. But just to see that connection, and then, and I won't go into it, but everyone is so tight because life is so short that even the Nash thing came up. Bro, you talked to Nash lately, and of course, you hear things. He's like, hey, we're family, man. This, I can't even process losing a kid. He goes, and I don't even have genetically, I don't have, a kid. I've got I've got some kids I adopted, but I don't have kids, and then here's Scott and his wife, and they got kids, and, and they're like, no, we could not ever imagine losing a kid. Bro, it's our bro, man. He's got to be, he can't be feeling good, bro. We got to make sure we text him and talk to him. And I'm just sitting here because they're all tight to him. Me and Kevin, I believe we're tight, but there's certain people that everyone grows a different way, and everyone had different federations. So like when I was at WWE, then I was at TNA. Well, that's basically when Kevin and Dallas were at WCW. And so those relationships, kept on moving, and he is exactly right. But that's just how tight, that's how tight our fraternity is and how much we care and we love. So that is a collage of people that are very influential to me, and I'm thankful, and many have passed, and the people that are important to me today. Lex Luger, every morning, every morning, between 5:30 and 6:30, Lex Luger sends me 1 to 2 different daily devotionals for me to read between 5:30 and 6:30, whether I'm up or not. Love you, Lex. But process that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
There is a grown man that is very popular 7 days a week because him and I are friends and he wants to share positive things in my life, takes the time to send some devotionals and maybe his thoughts every day. How do you thank someone for that?
Right. Incredible.
So there's your positive.
Incredible stuff.
Oh,
well,
and there's my girlfriend, and the positive is my death may be happening soon if we don't get out of here.
Well, I will let you go. I definitely don't want anything to happen to you, Erik. Again, one last time, I appreciate it so much. Thank you for joining the Wrestling Chatter, and thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Hey, you're one of the greatest AI robots I've ever met.
I
want to appreciate the wise George behind the scenes guy, and thank him for this show.
Yes,
and having me on. And guys, honestly, I don't do many just because of my schedule. But you all, please, please, please. It was so short. If you want to do a round 2 sometime soon, please have me get your handler to talk to me because I only talk to humans. And then I'll meet back up with you in the AI world.
All right, perfect. I love it. Thank you, Erik. We'll definitely schedule a round 2.
You got it, brother. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Just want to take a second again to thank Erik Watts for his time coming by the Wrestling Chatter and chatting with us. Lots of good stuff. We'll have to take him up on his option to do a second interview. Lots of fun stories with that guy. We got more good stuff coming up, though, so make sure to hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe. All the good stuff. Let us know who you'd like to see us interview next, and maybe let us know what questions you have going forward. We'll make sure to add those in the future. My name is Jack Farmer. This has been the Wrestling Chatter. Stay tuned for more.